My name is Isabella Martinez Chen, and until 6 weeks ago, I believed I was living the American dream. At 34, I had everything the magazines said I should want: a beautiful home in Westchester County, two honor roll children, and a husband who provided for our family as a successful investment banker. From the outside, we looked like the perfect suburban family, the kind that appears in insurance commercials and holiday greeting cards. But perfection, I've learned, is often just another word for carefully maintained lies. My husband, Jonathan, had always been particular about his personal belongings. His wallet was off limits, his phone was password protected, and his home office was his sacred space where I wasn't supposed to disturb him. For 15 years of marriage, I respected these boundaries, telling myself that everyone deserves privacy and that trust means not questioning every little thing. I was an idiot. The discovery happened on a Tuesday morning in March, the kind of crisp spring day that should have been filled with possibility rather than devastation. Jonathan had rushed out to catch an early train to the city, leaving his wallet on the kitchen counter next to his coffee mug, a rare oversight for a man who was usually meticulous about his routines. Our 8-year-old daughter, Sophia, was searching for lunch money, and I was helping her when I noticed a $20 bill sticking out from one of the wallet's compartments. As I reached for it, trying to be respectful of Jonathan's privacy, even in this small matter, a photograph slipped out and fluttered to the kitchen floor. It wasn't a photo of me. It wasn't a photo of our children. It was a photo of Jonathan with his arms wrapped around a young woman I'd never seen before. Both of them laughing at some private joke, both of them looking at each other with the kind of intimacy that I hadn't seen in his eyes when he looked at me in years. I stood in my kitchen, holding that photograph with trembling hands, while my daughter rummaged through the pantry looking for a granola bar. The world had shifted on its axis, but somehow life was continuing around me as if nothing had changed. Sophia was still chattering about her upcoming science project. The coffee maker was still gurgling, and somewhere in the distance, our neighbor was mowing his lawn. But everything had changed. The woman in the photo was young, probably mid-20s, with glossy black hair and a radiant smile. She was wearing a sundress that I recognized as expensive, the kind sold in boutiques rather than department stores. Jonathan's expression in the photo was one I hadn't seen in our family pictures in years. Genuinely happy, completely present, utterly infatuated. They were standing in front of what looked like a beach house, and in the background I could see a happy anniversary banner. Anniversary. The word hit me like a physical blow. This wasn't just an affair, it was a relationship. A relationship significant enough to celebrate milestones, significant enough to take commemorative photos. "Mom, are you okay?" Sophia's voice snapped me back to the present. She was staring at me with concern, her backpack slung over one shoulder. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Go catch your lunch money, okay? I love you." After Sophia left, I sat alone at our kitchen table, staring at Jonathan's abandoned wallet. How many other secrets was he carrying around? How many other lies were hiding in plain sight in our supposedly perfect home? I thought about our recent conversations, searching for clues I'd missed. He'd been working late more often, taking more business trips, being more secretive about his phone. But I'd attributed all of this to the demands of his job, to the stress of providing for our family. I'd been grateful for his hard work, proud of his dedication. I'd been blind. That morning, after the kids were at school and I should have been running errands or tackling the laundry, I found myself doing something I'd never imagined: investigating my own husband. The photo had opened a door that I couldn't close, and I needed to know what was on the other side. I started with his credit card statements, which I'd always had access to but rarely examined closely. Jonathan handled our finances, and I'd trusted him completely. Now, scrolling through months of charges, I began to see patterns I'd missed before. Expensive restaurants I'd never been to, hotel charges in cities where he claimed to be staying with colleagues, jewelry purchases that had never made their way to me. My hands were shaking as I printed out page after page of evidence, each statement revealing another layer of deception. This wasn't just an affair, it was an entire parallel life, funded by our joint account, supported by money that should have been securing our children's future. The most devastating discovery came when I found a charge for a couple's spa weekend at a resort in Napa Valley. I remembered that weekend clearly because Jonathan had told me he was attending a banking conference in Chicago. I'd spent those 3 days alone with the kids, proud of my hardworking husband, missing him and looking forward to his return. He'd been with her. By the time I heard his key in the door that evening, I had compiled a folder thick with evidence, credit card statements, bank records, and at the center of it all, that photograph, the smoking gun that had started my investigation.
"How was your day?" Jonathan asked, loosening his tie as he walked into the kitchen. He looked tired, but satisfied, the way he always did after what he claimed were long days at the office. For all I knew, he'd spent the afternoon with her. "Interesting," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I learned some fascinating things about our financial situation." He froze, his hand halfway to the refrigerator door. "What do you mean?" I placed the folder on the kitchen counter between us, along with his wallet. "You left this behind this morning. Sophia was looking for lunch money." Jonathan's face went white as he spotted the corner of the photograph protruding from the folder. For a moment, we just stared at each other across our kitchen island, the same granite surface where we'd shared 15 years of breakfast conversations, homework sessions, and quiet moments after the kids went to bed. "Isabella, I can explain." "Can you?" I opened the folder and pulled out the first credit card statement. "Can you explain this charge for a weekend at the Ritz-Carlton in Half Moon Bay? Because I remember that weekend. You told me you were visiting your mother." His mouth opened and closed soundlessly. "Or maybe you can explain this." I pulled out another statement. "Dinner for 2 at Le Bernardin in New York. $250. The same night you told me you were working late and grabbed a sandwich at your desk." "Isabella, please." "Please what? Please continue pretending I'm stupid. Please keep funding your other life with money that should be paying for our children's education." My voice was rising. 15 years of suppressed doubts and ignored instincts finally finding their voice. He tried to approach me, but I stepped back, holding up the photograph. "Who is she, Jonathan?" "Her name is... it's complicated." "It's really not. Either you're married to me or you're in love with someone else. Both can't be true."
What followed was the most painful conversation of my life. Jonathan tried every tactic in the cheater's playbook: denial, minimization, blame shifting, promises to change. He claimed it had just happened, that he'd never meant to hurt me, that she didn't mean anything to him. But the evidence told a different story. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a carefully constructed double life that had been going on for over 2 years. He'd been living with both of us, comparing us, choosing her for romantic weekends while relegating me to the role of household manager and child rearer. "I love you, Isabella," he said, tears streaming down his face. "I love our family. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end it with her, I promise." But I was done with his promises. I'd built my entire adult life around believing his words, and every single one had turned out to be negotiable. How could I ever trust him again? How could I look at him across the dinner table or lie next to him in bed knowing that he was capable of such elaborate deception? No, I said simply. We can't fix this because this isn't broken. This is what you chose. For 2 years, you chose her. You chose to lie to me, to steal from our family, to make me complicit in my own humiliation. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I called Diane Richardson, the best divorce attorney in our area. I'd met her at a charity function the previous year and had been impressed by her reputation for protecting women's interests in high-asset divorces. I need to file for divorce, I told her during our consultation, and I have evidence. Diane's eyes lit up when she saw the photograph and the financial records I'd compiled. This is excellent documentation, Isabella. Your husband has been using marital assets to fund an extramarital relationship. That's going to work strongly in your favor. I want to make sure my children are protected. I want to make sure he can't hide assets or manipulate the settlement. Leave that to me. We're going to make sure you get everything you're entitled to.
What followed was the most painful conversation of my life. Jonathan tried every tactic in the cheater's playbook: denial, minimization, blame shifting, promises to change. He claimed it had just happened, that he'd never meant to hurt me, that she didn't mean anything to him. But the evidence told a different story. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. It was a carefully constructed double life that had been going on for over 2 years. He'd been living with both of us, comparing us, choosing her for romantic weekends while relegating me to the role of household manager and child rearer. I love you, Isabella, he said, tears streaming down his face. I love our family. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. We can go to counseling. I'll end it with her, I promise. But I was done with his promises. I'd built my entire adult life around believing his words, and every single one had turned out to be negotiable. How could I ever trust him again? How could I look at him across the dinner table or lie next to him in bed knowing that he was capable of such elaborate deception? No, I said simply. We can't fix this because this isn't broken. This is what you chose. For 2 years, you chose her. You chose to lie to me, to steal from our family, to make me complicit in my own humiliation. That night, I slept in the guest room. The next morning, I called Diane Richardson, the best divorce attorney in our area. I'd met her at a charity function the previous year and had been impressed by her reputation for protecting women's interests in high-asset divorces. I need to file for divorce, I told her during our consultation, and I have evidence. Diane's eyes lit up when she saw the photograph and the financial records I'd compiled. This is excellent documentation, Isabella. Your husband has been using marital assets to fund an extramarital relationship. That's going to work strongly in your favor. I want to make sure my children are protected. I want to make sure he can't hide assets or manipulate the settlement. Leave that to me. We're going to make sure you get everything you're entitled to. I used to think that finding out about an affair would be the end of my world. Instead, it was the beginning of my real life. The life where I don't have to wonder why my husband seems distant, why I feel lonely in my own marriage, why I've been settling for crumbs of affection from a man who was saving his whole heart for someone else. My children will grow up watching their mother choose dignity over security, truth over comfort. That's a better legacy than staying in a marriage built on lies just to maintain the appearance of perfection. The photograph that destroyed my marriage saved my soul, and for that, I'll always be grateful. I've started seeing a therapist, Dr. Sarah Kellerman, who specializes in helping women rebuild their identities after major life transitions. During our sessions, she's helped me understand that my marriage had been slowly eroding my sense of self long before I discovered Jonathan's affair. The lies weren't just about another woman. They were about him systematically training me to doubt my own perceptions, to accept less than I deserved, to prioritize his comfort over my own intuition. You mentioned that you always felt something was off, but dismissed those feelings.
Dr. Kellerman observed during our third session. What do you think would have happened if you'd trusted yourself sooner? The question haunted me for days. I realized that I'd been gaslighting myself for years, explaining away Jonathan's emotional distance, his secretiveness, his gradual withdrawal from our family life. I'd told myself that successful men were naturally busy, that good wives didn't question their husband's every move, that love meant trusting without verification. But love also means honesty. Real love doesn't require you to ignore your instincts or accept breadcrumbs of affection. I'd confused emotional starvation with loyalty, loneliness with patience. The children are adjusting better than I expected. Sophia, wise beyond her 8 years, told me last week that she'd noticed Daddy seemed happier when he was on his phone than when he was with us. Miguel, only 6, mostly just wants to know if we can still have pancakes on Sunday mornings. We can, and we do, and they taste better now that I'm not cooking them with resentment. Jonathan has tried to maintain contact beyond the court-mandated arrangements. He sends long emails about how he's changed, how ending the affair has made him realize what he lost, how he wants to fight for our family. I delete them without reading past the first few lines. Some bridges, once burned, aren't meant to be rebuilt. His girlfriend, I learned her name is Amanda Prescott, and she's a 26-year-old marketing coordinator at his firm, apparently didn't take the news well when he tried to end things to save his marriage. According to mutual friends who can't resist sharing gossip, she showed up at his office making a scene, demanding to know if their 2 years together meant nothing to him. The irony is perfect. Jonathan finally got to experience what it feels like to be discarded by someone you thought loved you. I've also learned that ours wasn't his first affair. During the discovery process, Diane uncovered evidence of at least 2 other relationships during our marriage. Jonathan wasn't just a cheater, he was a serial cheater, someone for whom deception had become a way of life. Knowing this removed any lingering doubt about my decision. I hadn't lost the love of my life. I'd escaped from someone who was incapable of genuine love. My sister Carmen visits more often now, bringing wine and takeout and helping me remember who I was before I became Jonathan's wife. We laugh about things that weren't funny at the time, like how he used to criticize my cooking while eating elaborate meals with other women, or how he complained about our boring social life while maintaining a secret calendar full of romantic adventures. You know what's crazy? Carmen said last weekend as we watched the kids play in the backyard. You seem more like yourself now than you have in years, even with everything you're going through. She's right. The woman who discovered that photograph and immediately began documenting evidence, who hired the best lawyer in town and refused to be manipulated into reconciliation, that's who I really am. For 15 years, I'd been playing the role of the accommodating wife, the woman who made herself smaller so her husband could feel bigger. The affair didn't break me. It freed me to remember my own strength. I'm also rediscovering interests I'd abandoned during my marriage. I've enrolled in a photography class at the community college, something I'd always wanted to try, but Jonathan had dismissed as not practical. I'm learning Spanish again, planning a trip to visit my grandmother in Mexico City with the children this summer. I'm reading books that Jonathan used to mock as women's fiction, joining a book club, making friends who know me as Isabella rather than as Jonathan's wife. The financial independence is perhaps the most empowering aspect of my new life. For the first time since college, I have my own money, my own credit cards, my own financial decisions to make. I'm investing in my children's education, contributing to my own retirement fund, and yes, occasionally buying myself something beautiful just because I want it. Last week, I purchased a piece of jewelry from a local artisan, a silver necklace with a pendant that says "free" in delicate script. I wear it every day. Some betrayals hurt. The deepest ones set you free. If this story shocked you, just wait for what's next. Leave a comment, share it with someone who needs to hear this, and of course, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a single notification.